Hello and welcome to the Genius Move Audio Academy podcast. My name is Paul Brewer. In this podcast, I'll chat to people who are professionally involved in the music business here in Ireland and abroad. My first guest is Joe Egan, owner of the Nutshed Studio in Clara Co.Offaly here in the Midlands of Ireland. Joe, as well as being a producer-engineer, is also a session guitarist both on acoustic and electric guitars. Today we are talking about recording acoustic guitar.
How's things? Things grand.
For our chat, I mostly used a Zoom H1 handheld recorder, switching over to the studio system for the recorded guitar examples.
How are you?
I was surprised to see the mics Joe had selected were set up in the control room when I arrived.
We're all set up.
I asked him about the reasons for that.
Two reasons, I suppose. One, because it's usually me playing, and it's closer to the...
Handier.
Yeah, for the controls. It's a slightly deader sound in this room. It's probably a more controlled room than the bigger room, which was always designed for a little bit more bish bash. Now, in saying that, if I was recording a band that I wasn't playing, I would probably put them in the vocal booth, which is again more like this room. Probably even.
Shall we go up and have a listen?
Yeah.
Joe's studio has two recording areas in addition to the control room. A live area suitable for drums and a very dead booth, which can be used for vocals as well as guitars and guitar amps, etc. So this is the main room.
So you'll even hear that in your mic there. It's much more lively. The odd time a big roomy acoustic, but
would suit Jay.
Again, that's by design, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're just talking about in general. So this is the
vocal booth now.
Right.
So much deader.
Yeah, it is deader, isn't it?
Yeah. And maybe even recording with the lads, I probably leave the door open actually, so that they don't feel as enclosed.
Right, yeah. As underground.
Yeah, where singers, depending on the singers, would probably like to be either closed or lights off. Yeah. For acoustic, yeah. So, so either of these two rooms are where I go. And again, it depends on the session. If it's a kind of a bluegrassy, rootsy, folky thing, there's two or three lads that might want to play together. So
it
could be a lad in there and a lad in this control room, and maybe if the fiddle player or the banjo, certainly don't mind the banjo being out in the live room. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we're all on cans, which is fine. We start getting three lads down together. Good. Never any harm either, you know.
Yeah.
So that's for recording. Yeah, this room for me, because I can go over and hit stop and record and go back and forward.
Yeah, just practical as well as sonically as well.
Sonically, yeah, whatever it is. This room is probably. Do you know, when we did our little maths on the sound of it does measure more even than the control room. So
yes, indeed. While the recording space is important, the most important element in an acoustic sound is the guitar itself. I then asked Joe about the guitar he uses on sessions.
Yeah, so I acquired this a few years ago. It's a Martin. It's a HD35. So the industry standard was always the D28.
Yeah.
And then there was the HD28, which I'm not sure what the difference is, except I think it just could be fancier designs on it more than anything.
Right.
I think the back of the HD models have this strip in them.
Which is a strip of mahogany,
I think so, yeah. Again, I'm not sure what it does.
It sounds good, yeah.
It does sound good, yeah. Looks good too. The HD35, the D35 and the HD35 are this. So this instrument itself is a 1983. So it's just 1 year younger than me is all.
Right, okay.
Yeah, again, it's an important part of the process. The instrument being a good one. It took me a long time to find that guitar.
Right.
You know. So So again, very important. Now, obviously, for different genres, different instruments, different sounds, but you certainly won't go wrong with a Martin anyway.
Right.
To have. So that's that. Yeah. Now it probably does need new strings.
Right, yeah.
I find when there's new strings on it, and by the time you tune it up and play it around a few minutes, she's settled in, she's nice, you know.
I then asked about strings, the makes and the gauges.
I go with 12s. Again, everyone's different. I play as much electric as I do acoustic, so putting 13s and stuff on acoustics is not going to suit me. But I can see there's some lads put slightly heavier strings on the low end stuff. For me, it's 12s. It makes no difference in the studio. I don't care. To me, corded strings are for live gigging. I'll get an extra few weeks out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the studio, no, I don't care. And for me, it was always Martins were the strings I used to use usually. Early elixirs, don't have a preference, but 12s, Martin 12s they're always the go-to for me anyway. I find even with this guitar, I play it slightly different if you want it slightly duller, but whatever it is with the new strings, even for tuning and everything, it just holds itself together much better.
Okay.
They're not that old. They've probably only got a couple of hours playing, but I can hear the difference in it.
Yeah.
Do you know, I was just mixing together a bit of a track this morning, and you're putting first of all, you generally put your bit of zing on the acoustic, do you know what I mean? And if it suits it and it's not getting in the way of the vocal, it's something that probably lives there. The zing is nicer when there's newer strings on it anyway, do you know?
Right. So that's if you're going for a zingy sound.
And if you're not, you might come back from the mic a bit, play a little closer maybe towards the neck or the bridge if it's crankier sounding, do you know what I mean?
Right, so you're sort of fine-tuning.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference a couple of 6 or 8 inches back from the mic is going to make. Do you know what I mean? It'll be certainly it'll be less bright anyway, and it'll be less jumping around in the sound. It'll be more even and around it. Yeah. So I wouldn't be afraid to come back from the guitar once you're playing as even. Do you know?
Right. That's the secret, really.
Definitely is. Yeah, and especially if you're close to the mic. Yeah. So
the next subject we looked at was tuning. In the studio, if you're not playing, you're probably tuning up.
Again, depends on what you're doing. With an acoustic, sure, look, first of all, we start off with the open string tuning, or you just tuning as it is in a standard tuning. But that's not going to stay like that. So if you're capoing up 2 or 3 frets, there's where you tune, you know.
So you're tuning for the chord?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And maybe as well, you know, guitars keep needing setups, do you know. This one is probably due one now, so
how often would you do that?
Probably once a year now. Maybe she'll probably do it more, I don't know, but I definitely...
So is it a change with the season?
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Or is it just a change of use?
I think after a while it just I'm sure the neck wants to just go back some other way, do you know. Like this guitar was someone else's much longer than it was mine, so after the first setup it was unbelievable. I can feel it drifting back a little bit the other way. So there's compensation in tuning. So if you're playing down these chords down low here, this didn't get tuned. Anything 2 or 3 frets from the nut, it's going to be tricky to keep in tune, you know. So you might need, if the key of your song is in D, you might need to be more careful on D's and G's and things down here that they're right. Or if you're an E, this E might be in tune here, but if you hit an A up here, it might be slightly out. So you have to be very smart about where you're tuning, do you know?
So it's all a balance. There's no such thing as sort of definitive tuning.
Not for me anyway. No, I've never seen it the same. Again, lads come in as well, and they're this thing with it. You don't do that. You know, just let it ring out, and then and take your time with it and put it in tune. But if you're playing up around the 5th fret, tune up around the 5th fret. Do you know what I mean? You're taking out the variable of it being the intonation being slightly out. You know, so it's the best chance you get, you know. Unless you know your instrument unbelievably well and you know that it's been set up really recently by a lad who's good as well. So,
the Nutshed has a pretty good mic locker. So I then asked Joe which ones he picked for this job and why.
Yeah, in front of us here are 2 AKG 4-and-4s, fairly close together in cardioid.
So what are we looking at? 3 inches, 4 inches?
Yeah, and to be honest, they're only that far apart, probably because the cradle, do you know.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so I tend to aim for side by side, just, I suppose, and as close together as possible for phase afterwards. And then the first 4-and-4 would probably aim around the bottom, which is, I don't know if there's a... What do you call this part of the guitar?
I don't know, to be honest. But that's just at the bottom of the neck.
Yeah, so just underneath that, I keep away from the sound hole.
Yeah.
Just a rush of energy from there. But I think this area here, just under, the 15, 16 fret, bottom of the guitar there, that's where the first mic goes. And then the second mic is aiming at the 12th fret. Again, that was one that lads do for years. It just sounds good there. I don't know whether there's a harmonic difference in that area of the guitar or what, but that's what I do.
And what, you're sort of a foot away?
Yeah, no, again, it depends. Now, if I'm lashing the guitar now, I'll definitely come back. I have no problem being back around here, do you know?
So that's
another 6 inches perhaps, another 8 inches back.
So that's 45 centimeters sort of thing.
Yeah, there's no harm. Now, if it's a little small picky part and I'm up around here, I don't mind being nice and close, you know. It gives a kind of warmth to the whole thing. But
so the distance will be a part of the tone.
Yeah, and you're going to be listening to it afterwards. If it's not working, you're going to go again. Do you know? Right, so okay. And better to fix these or have these things right now than relying on someone else to do it, something else to do it afterwards, like an EQ or something. Do you know? Yeah.
So really, all your sounds are sort of generated by the balance between the microphone, the balance between the guitar, where it's pointing.
Yeah, and the different gauge picks maybe as well are important, you know. For a big strummy thing, if I'm just sitting back left and right in a chorus, do you know, I like a light plectrum, do you know, so you're just getting the zing from the guitar and not much pick.
I then ask, would the thud element of an acoustic sound feature in recordings?
I have done. If it's just a vocal and acoustic track,
right,
you can like actually you might be relying on your guitar for all that weight,
right,
because it's coming from nowhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would probably be controlling that afterwards with something, but yeah, I would leave more body. And again, that would be listening, wouldn't it? You know, so you'd probably have a guide vocal there, so you'd scoot around here, move forward and back, and you might find yourself coming a little closer to the hole there, just to get a bit more weight.
Right.
Yeah. If it's just a guitar and vocal, yeah, certainly you'd be trying to keep the weight from the instrument. Yeah.
Right.
I suppose we'd usually filter back from about 80 on a high pass anyway. So I'm not sure what Anton under that would be very useful. You know.
Yeah. And would you ever shift the high pass higher? Like if it was a dense track?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll have no problem if he's not doing the job of that job, is it? And even
what job?
As in if it was the second verse and the bass player is playing up the neck a bit and the drummer's rattling away and everyone and the acoustic's just holding down that rhythm for your ears and a little bit of texture and tone. Yeah, I could move him up to 100, 110, 20. Yeah,
right.
Because I don't need the body of the guitar to create that warmth in the mix. Only if it was
a dense track and
maybe the left and right. So sometimes I record an acoustic and he's in the middle for the verses, and sometimes I ditch him for left and right for the choruses, but sometimes I leave him in.
Right.
Yeah, so then the left and right lads I might filter a little bit higher.
Right.
Again, I'll use my ears. It might be a longer slope or a slower slope and then bring it up, so there's still a little bit of weight there but less. It mightn't be a very straight filter, you know. So but sometimes I double up on acoustics. So if the chord is down here, instead I might capo up at the 8th or 9th fret and use like a G, D and C, and that stuff I might filter higher because I want it to sound like more like a mandolin or something that. So it's colour I'm looking for, but it's all high end colour, do you know. So I definitely filter all those because I don't want any weight off them at all.
Right.
Because the left and right guitar and the middle lad are doing lots of weight.
Yes.
Do you know? So yeah, in that case I would filter higher. Yeah. And probably no harm as well to look at your acoustic and low pass a little bit at the top as well. I'm not sure, but the more I've been doing that recently on instruments that, like, I look at the graph and if it's not there and it's not needed, remove it, you know. I'm just not sure what damage it's doing later on, but certainly at the end of the track, everything seems to sound a little bit more like it has its own pockets.
Yeah, and a bit more room up the top.
Yeah, for whoever needs to be up there, you know, and that's
I found that with electrics as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Electrics... Bring them in low pass and high pass and create that shape, and they become much chunkier.
Yeah.
And you can turn them up and you can pan them any way you want because they have their place then. Do you know?
And you're not covering the top end of the snare and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. And fighting with a vocal. And certainly, yeah. And acoustics do that because they can live up quite high, especially if you're up high in a capo, do you know, and you're up around these notes here, do you know. I suppose a bit of common sense comes into the tone and placement and moving around to get the sound you want.
So would it be fair to say you don't just chuck up a mic and EQ?
Oh, I don't think so. Oh, no. If I cannot EQ it at all, this guitar's been quite nice. That maybe a little bit of low mid activity around 200, 250. That little, but sometimes not at all. Sometimes, but you can balance that with boosting. Your kind of your 5s and your 10 and 12Ks just a little bit, like a dB or 2 of each of those.
Right.
You might balance out the body of the guitar,
right,
and leave you not putting any holes, which is great. Really, yeah. So, yeah, no. Luckily, probably the instrument is probably doing a huge amount of the heavy lifting on that one now.
Just the sound of it.
Just the sound of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, because we've stereo-mic'd everything that we've talked about so far there. And even you mightn't pan the two mics completely hard left and right for your strummy stuff. You might leave it, I don't know, for like 40 and 80, or if you want it hard on one side and maybe 60% on the other mic. So just so that it feels like there's still a little balance between the two of them on one side.
So far we've spoken about rhythm acoustics only, but what about when an acoustic lead is required?
I would probably go back to one mic.
Right. And would that be one of the AKGs?
You could do, but I would probably, just to change it up, I would probably use the Neumann 103, which is actually beside us there. I kind of use that for lots of stuff, but for a mono acoustic part, like a lead part on any song, the 103 seems to work nicely. Not really sure why. There seems to be a general high cut around 3K in them, and it softens off if you're doing leady stuff up around here, so it's not as zingy,
Right, yeah.
But the 103 for anything leady, or if I'm only putting one mic in acoustic, which will sometimes be the case as well, I'd probably choose the 103 on its own rather than a 414.
Right.
And that's probably from trying it for years, and I realised that I prefer the other one.
yeah, in that context.
Yeah, exactly.
And would you ever use ribbon mics?
I have a few times. I work with a few lads to do the bluegrassy thing, and we started referencing off what some of the American lads are at.
Oh, right, okay.
And they've certainly seem to be getting lots of low mids and not very high highs. Do you know what I mean? But, we've tried it.
Sort of a generally darker sound.
Darker, a duller. I have
maybe not a less modern sound.
Oh, very much not a less. But the record still sounds good. But it seemed to have gone back to embrace that vintagey feel. And the ribbon. I have a pair of Coles there, and I've used them, not as much recently now, but again, if the boys have a very specific reference, which is important actually, the Coles can be very interesting for that. But
what Coles do you have? They're not the 4038.
No, they're not. I forget what they are actually.
They're the more modern.
Yeah, they're written. We'll nip out now and read them. I can't remember
It turns out it's the Coles 4040 microphone.
I've used them for overheads actually, and other little things, and they're very, very, very good for that crack.
So, in a sort of splashy kit.
Yeah, if you're looking for
context.
Yeah. If you're not going to make an actual track with them on top, but you might make something that's a bit grittier. Do you know?
Yeah.
We then got down to the business of recording, or at least tuning for recording.
So, what are you using for tuning?
I'm using this Fender app on my phone. If I can find it now, of course. I find that pretty good. I was using one guitar toolkit, which I really liked, but when I upgraded my phone, it stopped working. Guitar tune, perfectly fine. I've gone back to using my phone all the time because rather than plugging into racks and moving around cables and stuff, it's very handy to put the phone down and move it around and move around the place. So.
And also,
it's definitely more precise than my old rack tuner anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can get much closer. You can see the couple of cents off left and right. You can see it now. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And there's this one on the head of the guitar.
That's just a clip-on one.
Yeah, again, they don't do much for me. I'm not really sure. I'm sure they're great in a little live setting and really quick, and you can visually see your instrument all the time, or like you can click through and see it. But in a studio, no, I tend to stick to these lads, you know.
Right.
So anyway, let's start at the top here and.
Let's speed through the tuning process.
Yeah, again, that clicked. That's in tune now, and it just took one hit, and I could see that it was a couple of cents off, and I could just nudge it up slowly.
Yeah,
you don't need to be clicking the whole time.
That's just tuning the open strings.
That's tuned now, yeah. But I would probably do it all again. No, just once more before. No, I mightn't do it now, but yeah, just for tuning, I would probably start again.
Is this for a key checking?
No, just for.
Just for the fact that it's a wooden guitar.
Yeah, and like if one of them was too far flat or sharp, it moves everything. Do you know?
Right.
So it's no harm to just give it a quick check, and then you keep on top of it. But welcome to the sound of a studio there, anyway.
Yeah, true. It's true.
No, it's quite cold overnight, so.
So they were all flat, really.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So but anyway, so what we might do is just.
So what pick do you use there now?
At the moment, this is right in the middle. It's probably a 60 60 there. This would be my go-to for some reason for my acoustics, which would be medium to light. Do you know?
Yeah, it wouldn't be for live anyway.
I don't think you would. No, no 1 mils and 80s and stuff like that.
And that's a Jim Dunlop, yeah.
Yeah, look.
That's because it's just what's available.
Yeah, I think it is. It's what was in my pocket. Like there's usually 5 or 6 of them in my pocket there.
Yeah.
I said there's a few lighter ones there. Now we have used. The boys have brought back. Well, that's very light, isn't it?
What's that? 48 is it?
48, yeah.
Yeah.
46. But I'll use it. I'll do a few bars of it and we'll hear the difference.
Yeah.
And even the thick one, if you can show me the thick one, actually. The Superman lad, whatever it is. Yeah, the Nashville, or the boys were coming back from America with these plectrums. I don't know what they were made from, but I think some stone or slate or something.
All right.
It was all a bit of a. It's certainly good, but they're 25 quid a plectrum or something.
20 quid for a stone.
Yeah. So look, we're in the position now I was talking about. 12 fret and just at the bottom of the guitar. So,
yeah.
And. Light pick there. Just for a more extreme, we'll go straight to the heavy pick actually.
Yeah, that's recorded louder for a start. And both of those are in through the Neves.
The Neves, yeah.
We'll talk about those later.
Yeah. And this is a nice light one now.
Right.
So these are the two I go to. You can hear straight away. Again, depending on the track, you know, if you need to be heavy-handed, that you're going to go there. But these two light ones are kind of 60s, and that's where I am for acoustics usually. Do you know?
Right.
Yeah. So that's.
Would you ever use a smaller acoustic or anything like that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, definitely. I just bought. A half-sized nylon string guitar because I don't play a ukulele.
All right, okay.
But I can see why it's a useful sound. I just thought I'd buy a half-size. So it only arrived last week, but we've recorded smaller body guitar and I really liked them. I prefer actually smaller sounding guitars than the jumbo ones for some reason.
Right. Maybe the jumbo ones are more for live, are they?
And probably maybe a vocal on its own. But I'm always trying to fit things into a track. I do like the small body guitars. I really do. So interesting to see what this little nylon is going to be like.
Yeah.
It'll give me that sound of a kind of ukulele thing, but I'll have the 6 strings and play as I know it, you know. So
you won't have to relearn.
Exactly. I might just capo up just to see.
Yeah.
So like that, we could both see that was in tune there. So capo up. I just want to check the tuning.
Yep.
Which isn't going to be right.
Absolutely. Not.
So that can be the mistake. First of all, Med, like let's capo up and drop that in the chorus, and next thing there's harmonically something going way wrong on your track, and it can't be fixed ever again, unless you get the human back. Do you know? Again, you want to be using your ears to decide exactly the placement on this, but it would be in around the 12th fret or somewhere between there and the bottom of the guitar. We'll tune her up again. I'm very surprised if this will be fairly good. No, so way sharp.
Right. Which you would expect.
Yeah. But it'd be some mess if you didn't do it at the same time. So.
And speed up through the tuning.
Yeah, so we tune the open string, but because we're up so high in the neck, and I decided I'm going to use a shape like this. Really, you want to be tuning those because they could be living there for the 3 chords. Do you know? So, but yeah, so that again was and that can marry in lovely with very useful on a chorus if you wanted to double track the acoustics, do the double track up a good bit higher in a different chord sequence,
right?
Stand down below it, you know.
You're
starting to ring all these different sounds, you know. Now. We're just taking the chance because we're not listening back, but I'm sure that's that kind of sound there now, you know.
Right. So that'd be your starting off point, sort of 12th fret.
Yeah.
6-8 inches.
Yeah, like
whatever.
what I'll do, even just to do a small part, I'll come back a little bit, but I'm not sure will it suit the mono. I might suit these nicer, do you know. You're listening to that on its own. That and the second verse, when there's more detail in other instruments that are needed, that further away acoustic, less top end, less bottom end, could be exactly what you're after.
Right.
You know, to rattle you through the second verse,
get roomier.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
more further back from a microphone. And,
So if it was a track where you had an electric guitar or a piano starting to do little colourful riffs in the second verse, you might want the acoustic just out of the way, but there, do you know, it's like it's there in the background's rattling away, and if you mute it, it's gone. Yeah. But when it's there, you know, and it's okay for the chorus then to go left and right and go big and bright, you know.
We then explored mic pre's.
I have Neves and Audient. I have 8 channels of Neve and I have 8 channels of Audient.
And that's just an ASP 008.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's a cheap.
Yeah, there's certainly. The main reason for getting it was for tracking drums. I probably needed an extra couple of pairs of mics, channels to get. That's where I'm starting off all the time. Like the Audience are certainly fine, and they're beautiful mic pre. But I find if I build up my whole track in Audient, it's not going to sound as good as if I build up my whole track on Neves.
And that's by doing the same thing?
Yeah, I just find whatever it is, the giveaway, like the Neves, the Audience will probably sound as nice as this stereo pair here now. But it's when we get to the end of the track and, you know, it's where the Neve to me stands up as being a little chunkier, all that stuff that you want. Yeah, I just think that just the quality is that bit better on the Neve front, you know.
And is it half the price of the Neve?
Sure it is, isn't it? Yeah, I think those stereo pairs now are about 2.4 or 2.6 for.
Wow.
Yeah, for 2 channels
so
with nothing on it.
The Audience is much cheaper than that.
Oh, sure, it's half that, I'd say, for 8 channels and high pass filters and pads and
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so look,
will we do a little bit of recording?
Yeah, so we
just
have
do a few chords with them, with the Neves currently, and then we'll switch over to the Audience.
Yeah, we'll start with the Neves, and then we'll go back to the Audience.
We then plugged up the Audient again and recorded the same chords again for comparison. So there you have it. Many thanks to Joe Egan for his time and effort in making this podcast. Do visit geniusmove.ie to find out about recording courses to suit you. Thanks for listening.